It's time once again for two internet strangers to discuss the good and evil of the horror genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the terror within the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
Been happening this week to me.
Yeah, that's nice. Go on.
I'm glad you're so concerned about my well-being. Anyway,
actually,
like
I'm sorry. I'm taking a phone call right now. Can this wait for just a few seconds?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I'm still talking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. 5 figures. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead and take the contract. Mm-hmm.
Is this the?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell the listeners what happened this week? Is that?
Yes. Actually, this may be my last episode. I have an agent who will probably have to be an intermediary for me in the podcast. You see, I'm famous now. Wildly.
Reddit famous.
Wildly. Well, call it what you will, Corey, but I have over 17,865 points currently on a comment I made, and I don't really have as much time for the little people anymore, if you understand what I'm saying.
And I'm apparently one of those little people, so I'll just deal with your agent from now on because, he's probably more personable than you.
Well, I'm not trying to start anything here. I'm trying to keep this very civil. Maybe if you were as famous as I am right now, you would understand.
You're right. Maybe when my music career takes off,
well,
I'll be able to.
Pretty soon I'll be guest starring in the newest season of American Horror Story, and it's just taking up a lot of my time. All of these calls I'm getting, all of these faxes, emails, tweets. I'm getting a lot of tweets, Corey.
That's what Reddit famous people get, is tweets. Should I call my friend that's actually occasionally on American Horror Story and check up on this fact?
No need to do that.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I trust you as a friend.
Hold on, I'm getting a call. What? What do you mean? No, I never agreed to that. Well, how do they... I don't think anyone has the right to look at... Okay, I'll talk to you later. So, I am now officially negative 735 karma on my famous comment, so...
Is this because they found your fan fiction?
Let's not talk about that right now. Let's just let bygones be bygones and move forward. I think it's a new day. I've got, this podcast has a bright future, especially with me on it. Yeah. So, anyway, this episode we'll be talking about Little Monsters. Well, not the movie Little Monsters, but actual Little Monsters. Would you like?
It's a good movie, though.
Yeah, it is. Would you like to take over, Corey?
Sure. Would you like me to go back and tell my story now?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell your story.
All right. So I don't know what's been going on this week, but little things have been going wrong everywhere I go. Like, my battery cable came loose in my Jeep, so I couldn't figure that out. I was briefly stuck. I'll be getting ready for bed, and all of a sudden, like, this mug I have full of pencils will just fall over, and I'll hear skittering and laughing away. Just this little tiny hee laugh. It's really starting to creep me out, and I'm starting to think I have gremlins, Maddie.
Do gremlins laugh like that?
Well, I don't know because I haven't watched Gremlins, but I know they laugh that way in Munchies and Ghoulies. And since we're talking about cheaper versions of Gremlins, then yeah, Gremlins laugh that way.
The Shay, the little people, the Duende, Tilwith Teg, imps, goblins, Chinex, Mogwai, Joga, Menehune. As with all monsters, there are many names for the small spirits and creatures that haunt the many corners of the earth that man has traveled to. Some are good, some are not. It is the malevolent ones that seem to possess far darker powers than vampires, werewolves, or witches combined. They may go unseen or hide in the shadows, too small to find unless they seek you out first. Sometimes they like to steal your children to eat them, or enslave them. Sometimes they like to swap yours for theirs, because a fairy baby's a hell of a lot more to deal with than a human one. And why do the work if you can get some yokel to do it for you? A little person can steal your beauty or enhance it, curse your home, destroy it. They are, in essence, able to do anything they want. Which is why any of these many creatures is the perfect addition to a low-budget horror film. Rarely done right, but always fun.
Don't some also take children to create new versions of their species? Isn't that a troll mythology?
Do you mean to mate with them?
No. Maybe we should cut the troll child molesting part we just accidentally did. I'll be a little more specific.
I was like, that's a new one. Okay, go on.
As a child, I had this book. It was about trolls and how trolls came to be. And trolls don't come to be, according to this book, trolls don't come to be by mating with other trolls. They steal children and they do all this horrible, torturous stuff. Like they squish them down and stretch them out and do all this crazy stuff to them to like sort of turn them into trolls. And I think there are some enchantments and stuff. So yeah, little monsters can be pretty malevolent.
Did you ever read the book Nasty Gnomes when you were a kid?
I did not.
Oh, it's this great, like, really heavily illustrated book about basically the fact that gnomes are all a bunch of dicks and they don't pay. I love how detailed kids' books are with pictures sometimes. Did your troll book have some really good illustrations?
It had some scarring pictures that I carry with me to this day, yes. I wish I still had that book. I might have to try to find it.
As you mentioned earlier, I'm doing Munchies from 1987, I believe, and yours is Ghoulies, correct?
Yes, from 1984, which, oddly enough, is the same year Gremlins came out, but we'll get to that in my part.
Before we get into that, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I don't think so. Wait, am I forgetting something? I don't actually have any horror news.
Oh, that's great.
I screwed up.
Because I have plenty of horror news this week, kind of. Shout Factory is releasing a special edition Blu-ray in July of In the Mouth of Madness.
I did see that, and I'm super stoked about that.
It's a really good movie. I think
it
Blu-ray
is.
will do it justice.
It'll at least get it back out there and easier to find. I mean, I imagine you can still find it on DVD, but who wants DVD these days? It's 2018.
Yeah, I think we're going into a really good time with film releases lately, or re-releases. Shout Factory's doing a lot of work towards that.
Yeah, they are. Actually, I think there's Shout Factory put out a Ghoulies 1 and 2 Blu-ray that I might pick up. Maybe.
I might have added that to my cart.
Nice.
There's also going to be another Grudge remake produced by Sam Raimi.
Was the Americanized version already on his Ghost House Productions?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I was never a huge fan of The Grudge.
No, neither was I. I remember that it was sort of riding the coattail of The Ring, and I really liked The Ring at that point because it was so... I hadn't really gotten into Japanese horror yet. I mean, granted, an American remake of Japanese horror is not getting into Japanese horror. But that movie was kind of my springboard into Takashi Miike films and stuff like that. So it's kind of got a special place in my heart. So I went to see The Grudge in theaters thinking I'd get more of that, but I did not.
I feel like if I rewatched it now, I'd probably appreciate it more. But that was one of those movies that I saw on like late night cable TV. So like I'm sure scenes were cut down and words were replaced. And they usually butcher it on TNT or regular channels.
I should try it again. I just really remember not being into it.
Speaking of releases, there's going to be an 8th season of American Horror Story. Just announced.
I haven't watched this season yet.
Yeah, how long is that show going to go on? Not to criticize it, but 8 seasons is a lot.
It is, but considering it's a shared universe anthology series, it could go on forever.
Honestly, after season 3, it felt like they were really just trying to come up with stories to be edgy.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely what they did, because that's what worked so well in season 1.
Yeah, I mean, not to criticize any fans. If you enjoy it, you do you. It's just, I don't know, I felt like I wasn't very challenged by it.
I haven't watched this season, but and it's not challenging at all. It's pretty much your basic cable TV horror show with some PG-13 sexy stuff.
Yeah, I guess my disappointment lies in how much it gets built up.
Yeah, they are really good at the whole hype thing.
Here's something that I found absolutely kind of upsetting, but Roger Corman and his wife are being sued by their sons for selling a majority of their film library to Shout Factory. There seems to be some bad blood between the sons and Roger's wife, Julie, which I find very unfortunate. I hope it settles amicably, but I think there's very few other companies that would cherish the collection as much as Shout Factory, which is very respectful with the horror films they acquire, regardless of the quality. They're like the Criterion of horror and B-horror. Hopefully this lawsuit doesn't affect their property rights, and also, holy crap, Roger Corman is 92 years old.
Are there any details of why? Are they just doing it because they're not seeing the money that they feel like they should see?
Well, apparently, I don't know if it was a written or verbal agreement, but a few years back, Corman and the family had talked, and he said that he was basically putting the films into a trust so that the sons could acquire, over the course of the lifetime of the films after he passed, $20 to $30 million. And after this was announced, that the sons got really upset. They accused Julie of basically being abusive towards their father and forcing him to sell a Shout Factory. It's just a bunch of drama, and I don't know. It's just sad.
Yeah, that sucks. I guess I do have a little piece. It's more of a very, very mini review where I don't actually give any information. I binged Santa Clarita Diet over the week. I mean, you can't really binge over the week. It took me a while to watch it, but it's better than season 1, and I love season 1, so I recommend y'all go out and watch it immediately.
You feel like it's hitting its stride?
For sure. And it can only get more bonkers and more ridiculous in season 3. I'm pretty excited for it.
Did they ever really explain why she's a zombie?
It involves bad clams.
Oh, I think I remember that.
But it hasn't really fully committed to a cause yet.
I wonder if they will, or if they're going to keep it sort of vague just for humor's sake. Because it does seem pretty surreal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it's definitely surreal. I think they'll probably give us something eventually, but they're going to be pushing this clam thing for a while.
This episode will probably be going up before the one we recorded before this, because the other one was kind of depressing. But our next episode...
It's super depressing.
Yeah, our next episode is going to be a episode about witch hunting films. And hopefully we'll have a really cool interview, too, with a real witch.
Hopefully, I'm working on that.
You're working.
She said yes.
Corey?
You just cut out, speaking of cutting a portion out. Yeah, you just cut out.
Yeah, you cut out too.
I think it'll work out. I think we'll find time. We only need like 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. All right, so without further ado, it's time for the Steven Pre-Memorial Guess That Death Game.
Woo! Where are my notes? Oh, hey, right in front of me. I am so organized today.
Even though the listeners haven't heard it yet, in the last one, I believe I won.
I believe you crushed me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I don't think it was just a win. I think you crushed me.
Mm-hmm. So,
but yeah.
We are doing a little bit of a theme for this episode, like we've been kind of consistently trying to do since we started this game, and it's Death by Tiny Monsters. But I'm going to share a video with you, Corey, a sequence from Attack of the Beast Creatures.
All right, are we doing this through Skype or?
Yes, I want to see how share screen works. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's doing something. I can see myself with a lightsaber. Oh, there's your screen.
You see the YouTube? You ready?
Yep.
You're gonna love this.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm done!
Mrs. Gordon!
So that that was a cinematic masterpiece I wanted to share with you today before we...
Yeah, that soundtrack is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I really dug the synth in that. Everything else that clip sort of encapsulates everything that is wrong with tiny monster movies, especially when you have to use puppets instead of little people. Mm-hmm. It's very obvious the puppets aren't attacking you. It's very obvious you're holding the puppet on your neck and twirling it around, you know?
I'll be attaching this video to the blog entry this week.
Good idea.
So the readers can appreciate, the listeners and readers can appreciate it. I think my best part is when you see their little arms and legs actually moving.
I need to see that whole movie now.
That's a terrible movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now for my first challenge to you, Corey. I don't think anyone likes doing the laundry, but his issue goes way beyond trying to change the lint trap. Maybe his shoe can sop up some of that blood.
You did dig pretty deep. I have a feeling you dug deeper than I did.
I dug as deep as I could.
Would I know any actors in this film?
You would, but I don't believe I listed a famous actor's name.
All right, well, what hint do you want to give me?
It's a sequel.
I have no idea, but I'm going to go with Leprechaun 2.
Nope. Critters 3, Jeffrey Blake as Frank Longo.
Is that the one where they actually go to space?
I don't think... No, it's not.
That's 4, okay.
He's actually changing the laundry or opening the dryer, and a critter jumps out and tears his throat out.
Yeah, it's been a really long time since I've seen any of those other than one.
All right,
so that is 1 Maddie. My first one is Kid's Been Bad, pulls Dad's face off.
That sounds familiar. Kid's been bad, pulls Dad's face off. And you stuck with the theme, right?
Yep.
Gosh, I wish I could say it was Hellraiser, because he does lose his face, but...
No, not Hellraiser.
Give me a hint.
That would give it away.
We really do try to sabotage each other in this game.
True.
We're getting more and more competitive.
I'll walk on the razor's edge and say dead construction worker. There's your hint.
Sorry, I was just taking a sip of my sparkling wine.
That's okay.
Tiny monsters. Kid rips his father's face off. Well, shoot, I give up. One of the Puppet Master movies.
Nope. It was The Gate.
Damn it. Why didn't I just watched that movie?
Yeah, remember the parents? Yeah? Oh, okay. I thought you were about to accuse me of cheating. All right. I'm that paranoid.
It's just the automatic assumption.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to quote a line. So I have it in brackets here, German accent. So I apologize if I don't sound German when I do this.
That's okay.
Now that hell is full. I wonder where you will go.
Yeah. See, I feel like at first glance this is easy, but I have a feeling I've got to guess the sequel number to get it right.
Mm-mm.
No?
Mm-mm. Do you want a hint?
Yeah.
Ken Carpenter and Anti-Christmas.
Ken Carpenter, Anti-Christmas. I can't picture Ken Carpenter. Anti-Christmas, though.
Mm-hmm. Anti-Christmas.
Say the hint one more time.
Ken Carpenter, Anti-Christmas.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant the actual question. Sorry.
Oh. Now that hell is full. I wonder where you will go.
I just wanted to hear you do the accent. Puppet Master's the only thing coming to mind, but that has nothing to do with Christmas.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I give up.
Elves from 1989. A teenager and her friends do an anti-Christmas ritual and summon ancient Christmas elves. Then Nazis show up with a plot to get one of the elves to bang the girl and make a master race.
So does it take place in the 40s? Or they're just Nazis?
They're just Nazis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a terrible movie. Half the deaths aren't even the elves' fault. Terrible movie.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, Maddie 2, Corey 1?
Yep.
We are terrible at it this time.
I know, this is not going well.
It was a really tough deep dig challenge.
It really was. And I have a feeling some of mine are too easy because I procrastinated. My next one is, don't scold tiny monsters. They may skewer you, then you become a tree.
Gremlins.
Final answer?
Yes.
No, who becomes a tree in Gremlins?
I don't know. I was just thinking about the old lady. I don't know.
No, it was Troll 2.
He became a tree.
Yeah, at the end.
Oh my god. This is hard.
Yeah, this one's hard.
We are tied. All right. Nobody's safe. Nobody. I don't think antacid tablets are going to cure this upset stomach. Maybe a banker can take care of it.
Jesus. There's so many movies where stressed out bankers pop antacids. That's like, hint.
Clint Howard.
Clint Howard.
I'll even give you a second one. Michael McDonald.
Right. I'm not sure who that is. I should know who that is, but I can't picture who that is. Clint Howard. I am drawing a blank at Clint Howard movies.
Well, you can rest assured it's not Evil Speak or Waterboy. Or that one episode of Star Trek.
All right, I give up.
Leprechaun 2. Morty.
Shit.
When the leprechaun is trapped in a safe, he makes a wish to have more money. So the leprechaun puts his pot of gold in Morty's stomach.
That's the one where the guy eats a potato and starts turning Irish, right?
It might be.
That's how my friend used to describe that. It was like some curse and he was turning into the leprechaun, but he was like, no, this is a movie about a guy who eats a potato and turns Irish. It was funny.
All right, so that's 3-2.
Yeah.
Nobody getting anything right.
Nope. Sometimes you have to choke a cop until his eyes pop out.
That sounds like something that Pinhead would have done in a Puppet Master movie. But it also sounds like something Jason would do in any movie, but he's not a small creature.
He is not a small.
Pinhead didn't choke a cop in the first one. He didn't choke a cop in the second one. Or the third one.
All right, my free hint is that it's not a Puppet Master movie. In fact, none of mine are Puppet Master movies, because I thought for sure you'd get those.
Demonic Toys?
Final answer?
Yeah.
No.
What is it?
Basket Case 3.
Oh, motherfucker!
I dug deep.
Ah!
Speaking of movies that need a re-release, man, every Basket Case needs to be released.
Oh my gosh.
It's so hard to find some of those.
On a special edition Blu-ray set with director commentary.
Hell yes, that would be awesome.
So we're 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Nothing right so far. We are bad at this game this time. If we have any listeners who have somehow gotten every single question correct, please email us and tell us how much smarter you are.
Yeah, if you'd have a way to prove that, I would give you some sort of prize, but nobody, you can't prove that.
All right.
So it's an honor system. If I believe you, I will give you something. I'm not telling you what.
No, just put down the bloody rage fetus and let's talk about this. We can work it out.
I wasn't going to give somebody a bloody rage fetus. Are you crazy?
Just put it down.
Wait, was that the hint?
Yes.
Or the... Oh, shit. I'm
Corey,
sorry.
you're going in too deep. We've got to pull him out.
Well, I actually have a bunch of, like... The girl who's
Mental
going to do our... And I'll make this... I won't get too off topic. The girl who's making our logo eventually has this weird thing for tiny plastic babies, and I have one that sits on top of my computers, like at home and at work at all times. So, yeah, I'm predisposed to think the worst when it comes to feti. Anyway, what was it again?
Nola, just put down the bloody rage fetus and let's talk about this. We can work it out.
No ledges?
Nola.
Lola.
Nola.
Like New Orleans?
Yeah.
Is that the hip Texas way to say it?
It's a name.
Oh.
Nola, just put down the bloody rage fetus and let's talk about this. We can work it out. This isn't a direct quote.
No, I know, but you gave me a name and it's still not helping. Hint me.
This hint's really obvious. I'm gonna lose this one. Oliver Reed.
Can't be It's Alive.
Was he in It's Alive?
No, but I can't picture him. I am terrible with names.
Apparently.
I don't even know why I ask for these hints.
Oliver Reed, only one of the most smoldering men in history.
What else was he in?
Gladiator.
I haven't seen Gladiator in a long time.
Oh, it's such a good movie. It's really worth a rewatch.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies you don't watch for 5 years, and then you go back and watch it, and you're like, oh my god, this movie's incredible.
I'll give it a shot again. I remember liking it. All right, but I don't like the fact that I just lost this one.
Do you want the answer?
Yeah.
You're going to be so mad at yourself because I gave you the best clue.
Sure.
The Brood.
God. Ugh. It's also been about a decade since I've seen The Brood.
Oh, but
and
come
now
on.
I know who Oliver Reed is.
Bloody Rage Fetus? Come on, that's all that movie's about.
Yeah, but that's all that It's Alive's about. That's all that Island of the Alive's about.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
My
fair
head
enough.
is full
But
of Bloody
Oliver
Rage
Reed
fetuses.
was
I can't help
in
it.
this one.
Well, I actually pictured the guy from It's Alive when you said Oliver Reed, which I'm going to have to look him up later and see if they look anything alike.
He was also in Burnt Offerings and Tommy. I love Tommy. I need to rewatch Tommy. It's got the best.
Yeah, Tommy's
soundtrack.
pretty dope.
Yeah, he played the uncle in Tommy. Or not uncle, stepfather. All right, so 4 for 3. We are. Go on, Corey. We are terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
And this
All
was the one
right.
that was a giveaway because I know you love that director so much.
Yeah, I do, but I've like I said, I'm out of touch with a lot of this stuff. It's been a long time.
Cronenberg was just shaking his head because for some reason he was listening to that specific moment in our podcast. I'd like to believe.
So my next one is Don't Mess with Druids. They may turn you to lettuce.
You didn't do Troll 2 again, did you?
I don't know.
Troll 2.
Damn it.
Yay! I got one right.
I was really, really hoping that I would like trick you there, but I failed.
You're like hesitant. I don't know.
Well, I wasn't hesitant. I was muted. So I answered you in the proper time frame. It just you didn't hear me.
Okay, 4 for
right.
5. One of us got one of them right, so I'm in the lead. Don't bother with turning the heat up. Forget about antifreeze. Bananas should do that. Wait, bananas? Really? Who writes this shit?
Bananas, antifreeze. Is it tropical? That doesn't help me.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Can I have another hint?
It's a sequel.
It's not Island of the Alive?
No. You want another hint? I can give you another hint.
Okay.
Scott McDonald.
That doesn't help either because I suck.
You need to start researching actors. That's always going to be my clue.
Yeah, I know.
I have 2 McDonald's in this list, I just realized.
I don't know. I give up.
Jack Frost 2.
Ah! Oddly enough, I love that movie too. The first one's better, but that one's great too. Because that's one where he starts having little snowball demon monster babies running around.
Yeah, they're both so self-aware, and it's even funnier that as a self-aware sequel, they went to an island, which is like the obvious overdone trope for sequels.
Right.
Speaking of which, I heard they're going to do a Beetlejuice 2 finally.
Yeah, I did hear about that as well.
Who knows if that's
it was a while ago. Who knows where that's going?
Wait, hold on. Corey.
What?
You're cutting out.
Was I really?
Oh, sorry about that. My electricity went out for a couple minutes.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
You really panicked just for a flicker. That was funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was 10 minutes, Corey.
So I blacked out then?
I guess you did.
Dun, dun, dun.
Is there anything funny in your drink?
You know what? I just realized. I could have cheated this whole time because I can see your answers right on my computer.
Oh my god!
Your Skype screen. I didn't look once. I'm predisposed to cheating, and I didn't even cheat. Oh, what's wrong with me?
You could have seen all of my notes.
Yeah, I looked over, and the only one I saw Steve McDonald, and I'm like, oh, and then I saw The Brood, and I'm like, oh, and that's all I saw. So
that's really funny.
Yeah.
And I still won.
Yes, you did. Well, do you want to hear the rest of mine?
Yeah, sure. What's your last one? I forgot you had one more.
I actually have 2 more because I always do an extra one. So this one, I think, this would have been the easiest for me. Some rats carry terrible diseases.
Ghoulies? I don't know.
Just watched Ghoulies.
What? There's
no
rat-looking ghoulie?
There's a rat thing, but it doesn't carry. It's not diseasing people. It's biting.
How do you know it looks really diseased? Like
it does. It does have that little bit of drool just hanging there the whole time.
Well, there was that one Stephen King film.
No, it wasn't that.
What would it have been? Not that I didn't win.
Yes, it was Dead Alive.
Oh, the rat monkey.
Yes, I had to leave out monkey, or you definitely would have gotten it.
That is a stretch, my friend.
No way.
That is a stretch.
That is my least cheaty cheat ever.
It's like not even a movie about the rat monkey.
Yeah, but the rat monkey kills the old lady.
Yeah, I would have been. It would have been okay if you'd done the baby. The baby would have made more sense. It has more screen time than the rat monkey.
That's true. That's actually where I thought you were going with your bloody fetus question.
That would have been a good one, but I would have probably gone like something about intestines, because the intestine scene where it's like admiring itself in the mirror is like one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. All right, so my last one was don't steal baby's breath. Wait, cats don't steal baby's breath. Tiny demons do.
Oh, cat's eye?
Yep, Maddie wins.
Maddie wins. Even like if we'd been counting your two last questions.
Oh yeah, you still would have won.
Yeah, exactly, because I'm just that good.
Luckily, I am a graceful loser.
Mm-hmm. You are a loser.
Looking on the bright
correct.
side, I came in second.
I guess it's time to move on to the movies. What do you say?
Let's do that.
Munchies. Button into the driver's seat now, taking over the lead. Grabbing onto the backseat, baby, that's not what I need. I'm making an entrance, honey.
Here, kitty. What is that?
What are they?
I'm sure that thing's a cat. Murder?
No one kills small tropical fish and live.
I'm on the case!
So, Munchies from 1987. Before I launch into anything about the cast or the crew, I just gotta say, why, Harvey Korman? Why? Roger Corman, I have no excuse for you, sir. This was right up your alley. Not surprised you produced this. I actually would love to see Roger Corman and Charles Band in an interview together.
I think it's pretty great that we both picked a Corman and a Band movie, respectively, too.
I know, it's awesome.
It's very much us.
We were pretty much the two most ridiculous producers on the planet.
Yep.
So this was directed by Tina Hirsch, who was primarily an editor at the time, had actually worked with Corman in the 70s on a few pictures. She edited Death Race 2000, More American Graffiti, the sequel to American Graffiti, Airplane 2, and Gremlins. She's currently an adjunct professor at the USC Film School and head of the ACE, the American Cinema Editors Society.
You know, that is so Roger Corman to be like, oh, you worked on Gremlins?
Yeah.
Come here and work on my tiny monster movie.
Pretty much, yeah. You can even direct.
Yeah.
There's actually just a shout out to Shockwave's podcast. They interviewed Ted Raimi once, and he did a great impression of Roger Corman. I would definitely recommend that episode. So this was written by Lance Smith. I really couldn't find much about him, so I'm not even sure if he was a writer. Because, again, it's totally Roger Corman to have someone who's not a writer write a script, or someone who's not a director to direct a film. This story is really, really super simple. A father and son travel to Machu Picchu and bring home a tiny alien. Unfortunately for them, the Munchie, as the son's girlfriend dubs it, turns out to be more trouble than it's worth. Also, Harvey Korman plays a double role as the father and his sleazy brother. Chaos ensues and multiplies when he kidnaps the Munchie.
Oh man, I didn't even notice that.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I didn't catch that they were the same dudes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that speaks well for his acting chops, I guess.
Ah, gosh, it really, to me, it felt like he was phoning it in for this movie.
Yeah, I also could have been drunk. I'm often drunk.
Well, it's, you know what? It helps with a movie like The Munchies.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, just look at the poster. You know what you're getting into.
And as soon as you hear that theme song, that wacky, zany theme song, I loved the theme song.
Yeah. It's not a good movie, but it's a charming movie.
Yeah, it's sometimes fun is more interesting to me than good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, it's almost self-aware that it's not a great movie. And they just...
It actually reminded me if Full House made a horror movie.
I could totally see that, because I was kind of it did give me a very weird sitcom-y vibe.
Yeah, like the main character, the quote hero of the story, is very much Danny Tanner meets Uncle Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
He totally is. Oh my god.
yeah.
I was like, I wonder why this guy sounds and looks so familiar. And that's exactly it.
It's weird.
So, me and you both had kind of trouble at first finding this film, didn't we?
Yeah, I wouldn't have found it had you not. Well, actually, I probably would have found it, but I wouldn't have found it until this morning had you not sent it to me.
Well, so much like the Troll films, Munchies spawned a couple of sequels that had absolutely nothing to do with anything or anyone in the story. Munchie and Munchie Strikes Back are actually both sequels to the Munchies. And Munchie, you can find a dozen copies of that online.
Yeah, and Munchies is a children's movie, right? Or Munchie.
Yeah, and Munchie Strikes Back, I believe, with Dom DeLuise.
Oh, he was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not that Munchie was great, but Dom DeLuise was great.
I just assumed those movies sort of shared a name. I had no idea that they were actually in universe. That's nuts to me. Anyway.
Yeah. So, true to Roger Corman's rep, this movie was filmed in 12 days. And
it shows.
Yeah, I can't say very many of his movies have been good. This isn't one of them. I can say this, though, that I really admire how fast the man can work and still have a kind of cohesive storyline. That's a pretty impressive accomplishment.
Well, kind of cohesive. Once we get to my thoughts, it was a little less cohesive for me anyway.
Granted, I took that note halfway through the film. I still saw like how point A got to point Z eventually, even though it stopped at point fish and point alpha.
Exactly. There's just not one plot point that actually makes any sense. Like, it falls apart as soon as you give it 2 seconds of consideration. Which, again, fun movie. I can excuse all that.
But just imagine 12 days. Like, from the time I actually picked this movie to the time this episode will probably be up and running, that's pretty much when the production probably would have wrapped.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So, on the horror scale, this is moderately less terrifying than Problem Child 1 and 2.
Actually, I disagree a little bit. Sorry,
Really?
I just took a shot. Yeah.
You probably need to talk about the Munchies.
I found, and I'm gonna sound super pretentious the way I say this, but I found the juxtaposition of the murder of the hippie kid against the rest of the
Film's formula.
No, not formula, but the film's personality was like, it actually sort of affected me that such a lighthearted, goofy movie could have such a horrible death. Like, this dude listened to very loud music until his brain basically broke.
It's like,
you know what I mean?
It's like basically everything else was a kid's movie, like Problem Child 1 and 2, like I said, and that one sequence was like hobgoblins.
Right, exactly. It's like Home Alone if he straight murdered a hooker. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Actually, that would have made it a really interesting film. I would have loved that.
Yeah, and something Macaulay Culkin would probably act in now.
Aw, be nice. He's a nice guy.
No, that's not me being an asshole. That's me being like, I think he'd be into a project like that because it could be weird enough for him to like roll with it.
Well, considering Party Monster, you're probably not too far off.
Yeah.
And did you see his sequel skit to the Home Alone movies? No,
I didn't.
It's Kevin grown up, and he's very disturbed. I would definitely recommend watching it.
I'll look it up after we record. That sounds funny.
Here's how this conversation, I actually wrote this down. Here's how the conversation probably went when they were going to shoot this. I'll be Roger Corman and you'll be Lance. All right, well, I think I can get Harvey Korman for cheap. So just write a dozen or so scenes for him and we'll try to see if we can cut them in.
But I already wrote the script.
Okay. Just add them in now anyway. We'll just throw in a couple of extra munchies here and there. He can even spend half the movie picking up burgers. He'll make it funny. See if you can get a Betty Boop knockoff while you're at it. That's pretty much how the conversation went.
That's another thing. Speaking of the Betty Boop knockoff, that's another thing that completely wigged me out about this movie is I get why the stepdad doesn't care that the hippie son is dead, but the mom didn't even care.
Well,
like, that was his birth mother. Like...
Well, no, she wasn't. She said they adopted him because he was ugly and stupid, and she felt bad for him.
Oh, I missed that. I thought that he married into their
No.
thing. Okay,
Yeah.
then that's a lot less.
There's
That's
so
a
many
lot less
dumb
affecting to you
conversations
then.
that they have as like little gags that you gotta wonder if it was improv.
Yeah, I think maybe I was just reaching for more intelligence than this movie was willing to give me.
It was like, hey, this is a stupid movie, so sit down and stop asking questions. We're not going
Right.
to get smarter. I found it watchable. Nice brainwash after you've double featured Witchfinder General and The Black Death.
It was definitely a palate cleanser. This week was definitely a palate cleanser.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned earlier, there's only one casualty in this movie, the dumb, ugly son nobody will apparently miss.
Right. Nobody cares about this poor hippie. And I get it. He's a hippie. I don't care about him either, but it's still tragic.
Yeah, well, they made it a point to point out that he was stupid and ugly.
Yeah, they did.
Everything is wrapped up perfectly in my favorite way. The dad comes home and he doesn't give a shit about little aliens everywhere anymore because apparently he's got severe ADHD, and he found a new theory. So that's that.
Yeah, speaking of that theory, did you by chance catch the riff on Chariots of the Gods at the end?
I did not.
It was actually super brilliant. It was a really good cut on Eric von Daniken, the writer of Chariots of the Gods. Chariots of the Gods is the book that everybody goes to when they're talking about this ancient aliens crap. And it's all already been, like, the ancient aliens crew reference a book that's already been disproven. At the end of the movie, the dad makes a statement. He says he's going to write a book called Machu Picchu, Toxic Waste of the Gods. And that is, there's no question in my mind that was the movie just riffing on how stupid Chariots of the Gods are. It was pretty great.
Yeah, it's very clear that the script was slapped together faster than the movie was, but...
It was, but that was a pretty smart thing to throw in there,
Yeah.
I thought.
I think it was fun. It was just fun. And I've watched way worse movies. I think this was honestly just a little bit too good to be on Mystery Science Theater 3000, but not good enough to be a full moon picture.
Yeah, that's a good... It sits right in the middle, which a lot of Corman's films do.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I respect him. Kind of.
Yeah. So if you're ready for them, I have some thoughts.
Okay, go on. Throw them at me. Just
So,
don't throw
once
them at me
again-
like a munchie would throw ping pong balls or something, Because that's all they ever do.
In
They
fact,
throw
you know
shit.
what? In fact, I'll start with that. They did throw, and I have a theory because of this. At one point, Arnold, the original Munchie, throws a fondue skewer at the dumb and ugly hippie.
Mm-hmm.
And this spawned a theory in my head based around a couple of different things. So, Maddie, do you know what type of people ate fondue back then?
My grandparents.
This just got really awkward because of what I'm actually going to say.
Oh boy.
Swingers ate fondue, Maddie.
Oh god, I hope not.
Not that I'm accusing your wonderful grandparents of that. I'm sure they were great and they just enjoyed melted cheeses and chocolates.
Corey, I have a serious question for you. Do you enjoy melted cheese and do you like chocolate?
I do, but like I associate fondue with swinging. Like it's just it happens in movies. It was a thing. You always see fondue at parties where there are swingers.
Well, yeah, but the 70s was the swinger decade, and so was fondue. You know what?
That's true.
Correlation does not equal causation.
No, you're right. So to continue, there are swingers in TerrorVision, and it uses a similar color palette as this movie.
There are also swingers in Eating Raoul, and the same actress in TerrorVision is in Eating Raoul.
That's true, so we can add this into my shared universe. So I think that, and this goes deeper, this rabbit hole goes deeper.
Wait,
So
are you
TerrorVision-
spawning a fan fiction right now?
No, I'm just justifying a theory.
Okay, just
You can
me-
spawn the fan fiction if you want.
I think I might.
All right, based on my theory, TerrorVision and Munchies takes place in the same universe. And then when the uncle picks up his wife, they're driving back, she's reading a magazine with an article about gremlins. It says Gremlins ? And has a picture of one on the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
So Gremlins also takes place in the same universe, which means there are swingers somewhere in Gremlins. Who do you think was swinging in Gremlins, Maddie?
Oh man, yeah, it's definitely got to be the couple that ended that were in Gremlins too.
Yep, that's exactly what the ones
Yeah,
that visit him in New
definitely.
York. Yeah, so that is my fondue swinger shared universe theory.
You know what? Honestly, the wife in the Munchies was very similar to the blonde chick in Terror Vision who was obsessed with the small boy.
Yeah.
Same voice. Maybe she's the same woman.
Could be.
Yeah.
I wonder which came first.
The Greek man or Harvey Korman? The world may never know.
That's true. Also, there was a lot of really uncomfortable, sexy stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, at one point, they give Arnold a Playboy, and he's very obviously masturbating in that tote bag, while the two main characters are talking about they're making sexual plans of their own for the next few minutes. How do you even consider doing that while there's this weird, mysterious alien monster in this bag being a horny Jawa? Like,
I think that the Munchies aren't evil. They've just hit puberty.
which also brings me to this movie's kind of like Rambo, Maddie.
Wait, Rambo hit puberty? I don't remember that plot point.
No. But Rambo is a movie about a man who comes back to a country that doesn't understand him anymore. These creatures who have been locked in this tomb for hundreds of years, they don't understand the world, and they just want to learn more about it. They're curious. And they learn fast. They're learning the languages. Mm-hmm. But they're pretty well, as soon as they leave the main character's house, they're immediately met with violence and have to defend. Well, at this point, it's just Arnold, but he's met with violence and he has to defend himself. Mm-hmm. Therefore, this causes the behavior throughout the film. They think, oh my God, we've come back to life in this war-torn, horrible society. I'd be a little weirded out if I found a demon thing with little pieces of armor on his robes. Don't get me wrong, but I'd make an attempt to understand them. I mean, obviously these guys know war. You know, they've seen some shit in their hundreds of years, and they may not be the safest thing to have in your suburb. But if you at least try to embrace their culture as they wanted to do with ours, I think this movie would have gone a lot better.
Except they do a lot of molesting type things, too. How do you explain that away, Corey?
The first thing that happens to them is they're given porn. They think that's commonplace. They're given a porn, and he hears them talking about how they're going to bone.
Ah, so you think they learn everything about human interaction just from porn alone?
No, but I think they learn super fast, and they're hearing what these people are saying, and they're seeing what's in the magazine, and I think they're making inferences based on that.
Well, even though you generally take a twisted and warped view of every plot of every film we watch, I will agree with you. I kind of sympathized with the Munchies.
Mm-hmm. I did too.
Yeah, I didn't find them malevolent enough to want them to all turn into statues that get sold to an alien professor, so...
Yeah, that's the other crazy thing. After all that madness, why would you keep one of the petrified creatures? Like, that thing could spring back into action at any moment, and it's just going to make more Munchies.
Because if he didn't give his father something, he would have had to give up his career as a stand-up comedian, Corey.
Yeah, a stand-up prop comedian. The dude pulled out an inflatable hammer during foreplay.
So what you're telling me is that this is the story of Carrot Top's childhood?
It's pretty close to that, yeah. Where are my notes on this? Okay. I don't know what's worse.
You took notes on Munchies.
Yeah, I take notes on every movie we watch. Honestly, I don't know what's worse. The fact that he pulled that inflatable hammer out, or that it hints to him being a prop comic, because I hate prop comics.
So, wait. Is the son the true monster in Munchies?
No, I think that he means well. I just think that he's a bad comedian, and he doesn't understand that he should be listening more to his dad in this case. Some dreams you just can't follow.
If your father is Harvey Korman and you still haven't hit it big, then there's no hope for you.
Yeah, there's a problem there. So, also, Maddie, I would immediately end my life if I had to wear one of those stupid ice cream cone hats.
Did his father work there or something? Why were they wearing those hats?
I don't know, but those things enraged. I mean, obviously it was a family establishment, so like I think that was the dad, and that was just the whole family. But yeah, I couldn't take that. And the last thing I was a little confused about. Did I miss something about that fast food restaurant later on? Why were they only employing little people? Did I miss like some clever title to that restaurant or something? Did you notice?
No, I think they just wanted to have a scene with little people.
Okay, I guess I should just.
I mean, why was there an entire scene devoted to Harvey Korman and his bimbo wife and that random cop getting food from a fast food joint?
That's true, too.
And why was he putting silly. Agent Orange in his food products at his company? That doesn't make sense. Just because it's called Agent Orange doesn't mean it's orange.
That is my second to last thing, actually. Where did I put that one?
Yeah, that was pretty much just a bunch of ridiculous puns.
Yeah, that guy confused me. The uncle at first I thought that he was just an actor in commercial because I kept seeing him in what I thought was random commercials on TVs. And then I found out he sells snack food, and then I was confused about where he got all this toxic waste, like why he had that. And then I found out he made his snack food out of toxic waste, and my confusion never subsided. Like, none of that.
Well,
it doesn't need to, but it doesn't make any sense to me.
Just be glad this wasn't a trauma film, because that would have been the central focus of the plot if it had been.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They love toxic waste and sex jokes.
But Trauma does toxic waste and sex jokes really well.
Well, they do it a little bit more effectively. I won't say well.
Fair enough.
But at least you never miss why there's toxic waste and sex jokes.
Yeah. All right, so the last little thing I have on this is, why do these creatures know how to drive? Also, when they spawn from Arnold, when Arnold's all cut up and more Munchies come out, they all have their own names and racial stereotypes. There's a Jew, a Latino fellow, and an obvious black one, which is a problem I won't even get into right now. But does that mean they existed before or were born from Arnold containing knowledge they couldn't possibly have right out of the goo? I guess, it's aliens that causes this. The answer is always aliens. I don't even know why I'm asking.
Well, why did all the gremlins look different?
Well, that makes more sense to me because they couldn't make full sentences as soon as they popped out of the
They
water
didn't have
blister.
porn magazines, Corey.
Fair enough. And I mean, they were a different species, so.
Maybe it was a really open-minded porn magazine they were reading. You don't know.
That could have been. You're right. All right, that is all I have on
Keeping it
Munchies.
classy as always on Hallow-Holics Anonymous.
Yes.
Now to move on to more mature material.
Yeah.
More elevated.
Mature.
Hear me. All you hosts gathered here. Give me the knowledge. I will have the wisdom and the power!
I don't actually think, I'm sorry, listeners, my movie was Ghoulies, as you heard earlier, which I thought I had seen, but as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, where's this carnival I remember? Why is there no carnival? Apparently, when I was a kid and didn't care about seeing movies in order, I saw Ghoulies 2, and I don't think I ever saw Ghoulies 1.
Really?
Yeah, so I was real confused about why. So now I have to go back and watch all of them because that's who I am. Mm-hmm. And I probably say that again in a little bit in this piece, but
there is actually a toilet death in Ghoulies 2, I think.
Well, there has to be. They promised it in Ghoulies 1. They've got to deliver it in 2. It's like Chekhov's toilet.
Chekhov, get out of our movies.
All right, hold on 1 second and I'll keep going.
Wait, while Corey is working on that, I would just like to make a side note that I absolutely hate Chekhov. I had to read him in college, and I still don't like him.
I hate him too. That's why I reference him all the time.
Russian humor is essentially this. Thank you, Chekhov. Oh, everyone is suffering and dying and killing themselves. That is funny. This is Russian comedy.
Yep.
And that's the summation of every single Chekhov play, ever.
I had a nightmare. I built a set for the Brothers Karamazov where I live near Pittsburgh, and then I had to deliver it all the way to Philadelphia. So everything about that was just horrible. But I digress.
That sounds like an awesome independent film's plot.
It could have been. It really could have been. A lot of my life could be, in fact.
I bet you I could probably write a fan fiction and somehow incorporate Ghoulies into it.
I'm sure you could. I have no doubt. All right.
Ghoulies discover communism.
Right. That's probably the plot of 4. I haven't seen it yet, so who knows? All right. To truly understand this movie, you must understand what a ghoul is. A ghoul is an Arabian demon who likes to hang out in graveyards, not to listen to Bauhaus and act morose, but for the easy access to the all-you-can-eat buffet right under their feet. They eat corpses, folks. Dead ones.
Ghouls are one of my favorite underused monsters.
Me too. I think they're awesome. But now that we got that out of the way, ghouls have nothing to do with Ghoulies. I just wanted to talk about ghouls for a second. As far as I can tell, ghoulies are mostly tiny, although one of them is medium-sized demons, in service to Satan and called forth by magic to do a magician's bidding. Much like the spirits of the Goetia, but that's completely unrelated, and I'll save my vast knowledge on that subject for a later episode.
Apparently about Goetia.
Yeah. So, Ghoulies is a movie where absolutely nothing happens, and by the end, none of it even matters.
Yeah, you got a point there.
Yeah. It opens on a mansion where a satanic rite is taking place in the basement. In this basement, a collection, a flock... what do you call a gaggle of Satanists? A coven. Jesus Christ. A coven.
Or a cult.
Or a cult. Yeah, that works too. I can't believe I forgot cult.
But I like gaggle. I think I'm going to start using gaggle.
All right, use gaggle of Satanists. So I'm going to go with
I
coven.
just picture a bunch of geese in white robes now.
Nice. A coven of Satanists led by Malcolm Graves, played by Michael
DeBar. To say a coven of Satanists. You could just say coven.
Yeah, but it's I wrote Coven of Satanists.
Okay, go with coven of Satanists.
A coven of Satanists led by Malcolm Graves, played by Michael DeBar. He was in Waxwork too, and he did a lot of TV. I guess he was in a bunch of MacGyver episodes, probably as the bad guy.
Who was he in Waxworks too?
I have it right in front of me.
Well, he was the creepy guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's always the creepy guy. He's probably never played anything other than a creepy bad guy. I can look it up if you want me to. But...
He has such a great voice.
Yeah, he does. He's one of those actors whose face and we just kind of touched upon this. He's one of those actors whose face but can't remember what movies he's been in.
That's really
also
funny.
Much like...
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching this again.
Also, much like everyone else, he's bad in this film. He also replaced Robert Palmer, the dude who wrote Addicted to Love, in a band called Power Station.
Oh my god.
Which I thought I had never heard of, but this was like a super group with Robert Palmer and John and Andy Taylor from Duran Duran. Oh and you'd recognize them. They do a cover of Get It On, Bang a Gong by T-Rex, and they do a cover of Some Like It Hot. You'd recognize the song, but...
I know who Robert Palmer is.
Yeah. You'd know him if you heard them, but you shouldn't go listen to him. Just go listen to T-Rex instead. Anyway. So they're about to sacrifice a baby, but the baby's Satanist mother wants nothing to do with it. She must have changed her mind last minute because taking a newborn into your Satan basement is obviously going to end with it being sacrificed. She offers herself in place of the baby. We are then promised gore, but it's a lie. Something, possibly a ghoulie, begins to tear from the baby's mother's chest. Then it cuts away. I assume they did this because for some odd reason they wanted a PG-13 rating, but I will never understand why.
That's odd for full moon.
Yeah, I know. It definitely felt like there was more film there that they didn't release. I didn't get it.
Maybe it just didn't look good.
Maybe. That could be a possibility. I will come back to this whole chest bursting thing in a little bit because it spawned a theory that I actually think is a right theory this time. The baby is kicked out of Satan Club along with a random follower, Wolfgang, played by the great Jack Nance of Eraserhead and Twin Peaks fame. And we fast forward 20 years later, the baby returns as a grown man named Jonathan, who's an absolute dick. You're right.
He is. He really is.
Yeah. With his girlfriend Rebecca to check out the house his super evil dad left him after he apparently died a horrible death that we never see and is never explained. There's a lot of that in this film. After spending a couple hours roaming around the house and meeting Wolfgang, who has become a creepy reclusive caretaker, they decide to have a party and invite all their weirdo friends. Then the real fun begins. We meet Dick, who is generally a disgusting human being who happens to have the best line in the entire film.
So, who's your beautiful friend?
I'm Donna.
They call me Dick, but you can call me Dick.
We also have Mike, the token drug user, who is possibly the worst, most awkward dance scene since Crispin Glover in Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Yeah, he actually kind of reminds me of Crispin in Friday the 13th.
I know, right? I mean, I guess you can call it breakdancing, but it's really just a bunch of flailing about while all his drugs fly out of his pockets all over the floor. No self-respecting drug addict would allow this to occur. In a movie full of tiny demons and resurrected zombie wizard dads, this is possibly the most unrealistic moment for me. I should mention here that I'm not going to discuss very many of the actors by their given names because they suck and don't matter. It's your basic collection of C-rated actors doing their best, which is very much not good enough.
Well,
it's
hold on.
very
One
rough.
of them, she's in Law and Order now.
Yeah, well, I will say that Mariska Hargitay of Law & Order fame has a small role in this film, but it is small, and she doesn't really do a whole lot.
And you know who her mother was, right?
I feel like I did, but I don't anymore.
Yeah, her mother was actually Jane Mansfield.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I love Jane Mansfield. That's awesome. I can't believe I didn't know that.
Woman. Yeah.
Yeah, she was awesome. After this fantastic dance scene, Jonathan decides to do a ritual from a book he found in a trunk along with some robes. This is never a good idea. The ritual results in tiny demons that vaguely resemble animals. The Ghoulies.
Him to do this?
Give yourself a reason. Curiosity, some evil entity in the house, his father's spirit, who knows, being a dick. Like, there's a number of reasons.
Jonathan is a dick. We've really got to push that point home.
A movie called Ghoulies, you'd think would involve the Ghoulies a little more than this one does. They really have very little to do in this movie. They're mostly there to jump on and bite people. The plot is mostly driven by Jonathan and his resurrected father, which brings us to the second ritual. Jonathan, who is, like I said, either possessed by some evil entity or possessed by his father's spirit or is just a power-hungry dick,
Maybe
all three. He then invites his friends over for a nice sunglasses dinner party. He needs them to hide the fact that his eyes now glow in neon green, so he makes everyone wear them at night while eating a fancy dinner. A quick note about these contacts. I'm not sure if they were of poor quality or the actor's eyes didn't take to them very well, but they never sat on his eyes right, giving the illusion of a lazy eye, which I found absolutely hilarious that this all-powerful magician had to sacrifice functional eyes for his magic. Is it truly worth unlimited power if everyone's going to be a little weirded out by you for the rest of your life? The effects guy, and I had trouble figuring out who was the actual dude in charge of the effects. I think it was John Carl Bechler, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Buckler. All right. Mm-hmm. John Carl Buckler seems to be the guy who headed this team.
He worked with Terror Vision.
Yeah. I mentioned that just for you, in fact. He's had his hands in a lot of B movies and some higher budget stuff over the years. Some good stuff like Hatchet, which I love everything about. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which I'm meh on. Terror Vision, which we all love.
I love Nightmare on Elm Street 4. It's my favorite one.
We'll talk about that later. Friday the 13th Part 7 and Halloween 4. And he's done some awful stuff like Project Metal Beast, The First Troll, and a movie called Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hype that I've never seen, but based on the title is for sure terrible.
It's a comedy with all. It's a comedy. It has some clever jokes in it, but it's not that great.
No, right on. Yeah, I don't know, but based on the stuff he's done, I'm guessing this had a lot more to do with budget than talent. Like, the dude's definitely done some good stuff. Yeah. And I know that the puppets kind of get a lot of flack in this movie, but I don't hate them. I think they're cool. Mm-hmm. I think some work better than others, but...
I've seen way worse.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like that clip I showed you earlier.
Yeah. So, back in the world of the movie, Jonathan then casts a spell on all his friends and teleports them to the basement for another ritual. At this point, I'm not even sure he knows why he's doing this. This time, it seems like he accidentally brings his father back to life.
You know, I hate when I go over to a friend's house just to hang out, and he hypnotizes me into joining a satanic coven every damn time.
Yeah, that's just not trustworthy. It's terrible.
It's rude.
It's very rude. But this begins the murder fest. Spoiler alert. Everybody dies, including Rebecca, who trips and falls down the stairs.
Why, Jonathan? Why?
Death. Yeah. Why? It was awful. So everybody but Rebecca at this point are brought back to a semi-alive state without the power to walk, so they have to slowly slither down to the basement for yet another ritual. It's such a weird choice. Like, I get that they're going for some kind of creepy movement thing, but it didn't work at all. It just made them all look floppy and ridiculous.
Yeah, I think Dick, his was kind of cool.
If I had to pick somebody's gloopy slithering, it would be his, but they were all pretty ridiculous.
Well, there was a really cool like little clip where he dragged himself with his like head arching, like he used his head to drag himself across the floor.
I could see how some would think that worked. I think at this point I just thought this movie was so ridiculous that I was over all of it at this point, and I think that's why this review has become so cynical. So, Jonathan finally snaps out of his green-eyed madness and carries Rebecca's corpse to the basement to interrupt his father's ritual to bring her back to life. It's then we find out Malcolm's true goal, to steal his son's youth. Which, again, like, you're back to life, you lived all those years afterwards, there's got to be an easier method than this convoluted, ridiculous plan.
Well,
I don't...
It's interesting you say that, because I think... Evil sorcerer or not, he did just sort of make out with a dude before he killed him. Kind of makes me wonder if this whole Satanism thing is just him compensating. And then he even tried to make out with his son.
Yeah, that was weird. That was a very slow, sensual kiss for a father to give to his son.
I mean,
yeah.
They could have picked a different way for him to try to steal his son's soul. I'm just saying.
True. So at this point, the only question answered in this movie is how the house got to be in such bad shape, even with a caretaker. Wolfgang was too busy becoming a good guy wizard.
Yeah, exactly. Out of nowhere.
Yeah, completely. I mean, there's a little hint. At one point you see him in bed and there's all these like pictures of angels and like figurines of angels. It's so ridiculous.
But couldn't he have saved himself some trouble and just said, hey, Jonathan, I know you want to move into this house, but you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, you'd think, but I don't. So Wolfgang Ex Machina was apparently only there to save the day. He spent his entire life training to grab onto a dude, surround each other with colored fog, and have a goofy eye electricity fight, then disappear into the ether. Maybe the sequels will explain this, and I'll let you know because I'm inevitably going to watch them this week because I'm an obsessive weirdo.
That's nothing new for the listeners.
No, not at all. Then everybody is suddenly back to life and running from the house collapsing around them. Seriously, everybody except Wolfgang, Malcolm, and Malcolm's baby mama survive the film. Although I imagine they will all suffer from severe post-traumatic stress disorder, and Jonathan will have a lot of explaining to do and will probably have to find a new circle of friends. Unless the ghoulies hiding in the back of his car attack them. Dun, dun, dun.
Is it just me, or did the robes they wore make them kind of look like Superman villains?
Yeah, I can see. I actually didn't hate the robes. There was, for some reason, the way they draped, even the masks. I was, you mean the robes?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
those were definitely 80s Superman villains. But the ones the not quite corpses wore,
yeah,
I actually thought were very effective and really cool.
Well, those worked. Yeah, those were actual just robes.
Yeah. So this is with all movies has left me with a few lingering questions and statements. I already said the one, there was gore. It's edited like they filmed it, then cut it out. Maybe it was bad. Maybe for some reason they wanted PG-13. I mean, maybe they were pushing for the Gremlins thing. That could have been it. I don't know. What was Gremlins rated when it came out? I feel like it might have been an R.
I'm pretty sure it was a PG-13.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I think originally it had some material and they cut it down. But it's still pretty dark, even with it cut down. I mean, when the mother kills the gremlins in the kitchen, that's a pretty dark scene. And the fact that they killed an old lady.
Yeah, and that whole, the much talked about monologue about what's her name's dad getting caught in the chimney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
that's pretty crazy.
It's a dark film. I would say it's darker than Munchies.
I think the Santa Claus starring Tim Allen is darker than the Munchies. So I think oh, go ahead.
Ghoulies always makes me think, God, I wish I was watching House 2 right now. Not that I don't enjoy Ghoulies in some ways, but House 2 is just so awesome. I want that house. Somebody build me that.
Yeah, for sure. I love House 2 and I love House 1, but I don't watch House 2 very often because I have to watch 1 before I can watch 2 for some reason. Do you know that there's 2 more after that? At least there might be 3.
I haven't seen them, but I knew there was definitely a House 3.
Yeah, one of them got Alan Smithied. I think it was 3, and it actually didn't. They changed the title. They released it under the title The Horror Show, but that was supposed to be House 3. And then the 4th one actually has the return of I hesitate to say this, but I think his name was David.
Like I don't remember. Why are you expecting me to remember names of people.
I can't remember. I'm going to look it up real quick because
Harold and...
we're walking on weird eggshells with that name.
Roger? Is it Roger?
Roger, that's what it is, yeah. So the fourth one, I think, actually, Roger comes back, the main character from the first one.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
So I touched upon this too, but why did a movie called Ghoulies, with Ghoulies on the cover of the box, underutilize said Ghoulies? The movie was more about a jerk dad and his jerk son having a fight about who loves Satan the best than it was about tiny demons doing stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, but, I blame that on Full Moon itself, the way they just make movies in general. This awful movie I had watched recently, Meridian, The Kiss of something or other.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, gosh, it was that vampire movie I was telling you about the other day. Right. The softcore porn with all the slow motion shots and the camera stuff. And it's like they give you a concept and then they touch on the concept lightly and then throw a bunch of unnecessary stuff into the film to stretch it out, and that's pretty much how most of their movies are.
Yeah, that's a good point. Which sucks because when they do a good movie, like the first couple subspecies, there isn't much of that filler and it works. But I mean, whatever. They got to make their checks somehow. So this next thought actually spawned a theory. I was thinking, what happened to the bigger ghoulie that was disguised as a clown? And then I realized, why was he even already there before the ritual was even attempted? And then I realized that, and he was bigger because he fit in that clown suit, which was horrifying on many levels. I think he was what burst out of Baby Mama's chest.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that was... I mean, it doesn't really explain why Wolfgang never dealt with him before, but this is not a movie for thinkers. So
Neither of these films is.
Yeah, that's why that's what I'm telling myself, to keep continuity there. So I didn't really know where to put this, but two little people in goofy hats were summoned as well, but their allegiances were murky at best, and I didn't really know where to mention them, so I'm doing that here. They existed too, and they were kind of funny sometimes.
I felt like they were there to further the plot, to drive it. Not really as essential characters, just exposition kind of characters.
Yeah, they did do a lot of exposition. I didn't like their flip-flopping of allegiances, I guess. It was just annoying, and it felt like things could have been accomplished with them. They could have just been more like wise characters whispering than actually having to be involved, but...
Yeah. Well, they said, when Jonathan asked them if he had allegiance to them before anyone else, and they said yes, but the thing is, the father technically owned his son's soul, so I'd be confused too.
Good point. That's true. So it was like middle management, typical communication issues. I imagine they deal with that in hell a lot.
Yeah, they're pretty much thinking it's better not to make a choice than to make the wrong choice.
Yeah. So, and finally, I thought maybe this movie was made to ride the Gremlins money train, but it turns out they were released in the same year. It's either one of those Hollywood coincidences, or maybe they got... Full Moon was like, oh, they're making this movie and it's got all these semi-known people in it. It's probably going to do great. We better make a tiny monster movie ourselves.
I think they were probably thinking that. I think they probably just tried to rush it and came out with something.
Probably.
Because their movies are usually running on the coattails of something.
Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
Like Vampire Journals riding on the coattails of Vampire Diaries. But for real, though, if you're thinking about seeing this movie, listeners, just go watch Gremlins.
I thought you just say, if you're really thinking about seeing Vampire Journals.
I like Vampire Journals. It speaks to the black clothes wearing 14-year-old in me. I watch that movie every now and again. In fact, I just watched it during my Radu obsession a couple weeks back.
Well, I've seen Ghoulies a couple of times, and I think on rewatch, it gets more enjoyable each time.
Maybe. I'm going to watch the second one tonight. Mm-hmm. And maybe the third and the fourth one later this week, just to be a completionist. So I'll get back to you on how that goes.
All right. Well, it looks like the electricity's not flickering anymore, so I think I can safely wrap up this podcast without any issues. How are you doing on your side, Corey?
I think I'm doing pretty good. Nothing has fallen over since we started, so... Hold up. Maybe I'm not doing quite as well as I thought.
Well, if you want to find the blog where we will be hosting that little video that we watched earlier from Attack of the Beast Creatures, You can find
Which
us.
you should. It's ridiculous.
Oh, it's incredible. You can find us at Hallow-Holic.blogspot.com or our mirror site, Hallow-Holic.wordpress.com.
And you can find us on Twitter. You can search for Hallow-Holics or @Nowhere23. It'll take you to the same place.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to email us something a little bit more detailed than a tweet or a twit or whatever you want to call it, you can email us at...
You just sounded so old.
You can email us at Hallow-Holics@outlook.com.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah,